Jai Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhitam Vijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sadhgana Lita Shri Shakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopeshna Gopikakanta Bhagavatam Namostute Bhakta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishadhani Sute Namani Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyacha Gita-nam Bhavyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Srila Prabhupada ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So thank you everyone for coming. This afternoon we're reading from the Bhagavad Gita. So we'll read one of the... Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Also say a word, please.
Oh, you want to say something first? Yes. Okay, sure.
Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to our Sunday's program. We are very, very fortunate that we are here having His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj here. As you may already know that he is quite busy traveling, globetrotter, not just now but since his youth, and he is very young. And he has become a Swami, and I'm surprised here we have a lot of Swans. So he is a Swami among the Swamis here. So he is very well known in the UK, where he joined the Bhaktivedanta Manor at a quite young age. He became a full-time monk. He has written over 10 books. Not any ordinary books, these are very, very recognized, being the essence. One of the book is called In Essence, where we are looking really the essence out of so many books. If we can turn to that one book, we can really find out who we are. They are very, very nice. Maharaj is expert in understanding the Sanskrit scriptures and then translating them not just in English, but English that we can understand. I'm a fan of your books, Maharaj. The book Bhagavad makes me feel that I can read Bhagavatam very, very quickly, but very thoroughly. Thank you so much. Not only that, Maharaj has organized several courses, and these are also very well recognized all over the world. I mean, I was given a tour of your courses list, where if I want this for how many hours, I can attain that. Maharaj is an expert. By the way, he did his education in information management, so obviously there are a lot of skills that Maharaj should have picked up and helped us in the spiritual management. So then Maharaj became the most beloved sannyasi in 2022. Again, fortunate to be on this occasion. Was a grand celebration. And then I can see that Maharaj doesn't touch the floor anymore because he's already carried from one place to the other place. Can you come here? Can you come here? So he's always traveling so much that I don't know how did you manage, Maharaj, to give a class here. But we are very, very fortunate that you have come. Everyone, please take the opportunity. Maharaj is expert in covering quite a range of subjects that we usually have here. If we bring it out, then Maharaj can help us to take valuable lessons inside. And one more thing I would like to say, Maharaj, if you find that Maharaj is expert in Gita. He has a website called Think Gita or GitaThink.org.
Think Gita, yeah.
ThinkGita.org. And his book also helps us how to dive deep into Bhagavad Gita. And Maharaj really wants us that if we want to have a successful life, that we can dwell in the book, take those. And then he also has courses that he organizes, a 4-month course or a 4-week course like that, not like lifelong like I'm taking. It's quite boring. Maharaj has put everything in that short time. So it is conducted in Germany, in German language, online, and also time to time meetups. Whoever is interested in Bhagavad Gita definitely shouldn't miss this opportunity. And it's also being planned to conduct in English, I heard. So if that happens, English speakers also benefit. Thank you, Maharaj. Once again, welcome His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj with Hari Bol.
Thank you so much for your kind
Next
introduction.
part, next time.
Next time, definitely. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm here today by the mercy of Deutsche Bahn train. But yes, very happy to be with you. Sudama is very kind, his kind words. I'm small, maybe 6'5", but spiritually small. But we travel around the world and we try to share with you amazing things that we learn from others. If there's anything good that you hear this afternoon, then it's what I gained from my teachers and from these amazing books. If there's anything which is a bit questionable, that's probably from my own character. So I'm just the messenger, just passing on. But I pass it on to you with confidence because everything I try to share with you, so much of it has changed my life, touched my life, and I'll try to communicate that to you today. So yes, I'm really happy to be with you. And today we're going to read from the Bhagavad Gita. Here you can see our Raw Prabhu has put up the verse. This is a very beautiful verse for me. I'll just give you some context before I go into it. Sometimes people ask me the question, why did you become a monk? This is like the most frequently asked question. And it's always a difficult question to answer. But you know, the first point I can trace back in my life that led me to this life was when I was a kid. I was about maybe 10 years old. How old are you? 10, look at that. I thought so. I looked kind of like you. You're more handsome than me. But I was 10 years old and I was watching a program on television and I saw these kids in another part of the world who were living in famine. They had no food to eat. Sometimes you see their bodies have become completely emaciated and they were suffering. And so I was watching this program and I remember even to this day, when I saw this suffering, then immediately I thought two things. One, this doesn't make any sense to me. And number two, I have to try to do something to help. These were the thoughts in my mind. I remember even to this day. And then what would happen as a child is I would go along and I would see more types of suffering. War, death, natural disasters, so many kinds of suffering in the world. And the constant thought in my mind would be, number one, I have to try to do something to help. And number two, why does this even happen in the first place? It's okay? So today's verse is very, very important to me because it's all about charity. And it's all about how we address the suffering in the world, what we can do to help. And also the Bhagavad Gita is so much talking about suffering and why it happens. But today specifically we're talking about charity and giving and being kind, and how when we live a life which is full of charity, then our life becomes very, very beautiful. So we'll read this verse together. You can see here, this is the Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a very beautiful language. It's a very logical language, a very scientific language. It's also a very humorous language. Like, I'll give you an example. In Sanskrit, mriga, the name for a mammal, you know, like a land animal, is mriga. Ga means to go. So mriga literally means one who goes on the land. That's a mammal. Gaga is the name for a bird because it literally means one who goes in the air. So if a mammal is mriga, a bird is gaga, you know what a tree is? Naga. No go. Ain't going nowhere. In one place. So you can see it's a very beautiful language, very humorous. Like, I'll give you another example. There's a Sanskrit word, dvija. Ja means to be born. And dvi means two. Like in German, two is? Zwei. Okay, sorry. That's not similar. So dvija literally means one who's born twice. Dvija. So in the Sanskrit language, three things are called dvija: a brahmana, teeth, and a bird. A brahmana is called twice born, clearly because they have taken two spiritual initiations. Teeth are also called twice born because first your teeth come, then they fall out, and then your teeth come again. And the bird is also known as twice born. You know why? Because first the egg comes out of the mother, and then the bird comes out of the egg. It's amazing language, no? Like, it's so logical, so beautiful, so humorous. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, when he translated the Bhagavad Gita, he also gave us the Sanskrit, so we also try to read the Sanskrit. So I'll read one line by line, and then you can repeat after me. Is that okay? Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshikale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshikale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshikale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam
Datavyamiti yaddanam.
Diyate nupakarine.
Diyate nupakarine.
Deshikale cha patre cha.
Deshikale cha patre cha.
Danam satvikam smitam.
Taddanam satvigam smritam.
Datavyamiti yaddanam.
Datavyamiti yaddanam.
Diyate nupakarine.
Diyate nupakarine.
Deshikale cha patre cha.
Deshikale cha patre cha.
Danam satvikam smitam.
Taddanam satvigam smritam.
दातव्यमिति यद्दानं
Datavyamiti yaddanam.
दीयतेनुपकारिणे
Diyate nupakarine.
देशकाले च पात्रे च
Deshikale cha patre cha.
तद्दानं सात्विकं स्मृतं
Taddanam satvigam smritam. Datavyamiti yaddanam. Diyate nupakarine. Deshikale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvigam smritam.
दातयम् इति यद्दानं
Datayamiti yaddanam.
दीयतेनुपकारिणे
Diyate nupakarine.
देशकाले च पात्रे च
Deshikale cha patre cha.
तद्दानं सात्विकं स्मृतं
Taddanam satvigam smritam.
Ladies.
Datavyamiti yaddanam. Diyate nupakarine. Deshikale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvigam smritam. Datavyamiti yaddanam. Diyate nupakarine. Deshikale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvigam smritam. Datavyamiti yaddanam. Diyate nupakarine. Deshikale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvigam smritam. Datavyamiti yaddanam. Diyate nupakarine. Deshikale cha patre cha. Taddanam satvigam smritam.
Datavyam, worth giving. Iti, thus. Yat, that which. Danam, charity. Diyate, is given. Anupakarine, irrespective of return. Deshe, in a proper place. Kale, at a proper time. Cha, also. Patre, to a suitable person. Cha, and. Tat, that. Danam, charity. Satvikam, in the mode of goodness. Smritam, is considered. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Purport. In the Vedic literature, charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. There is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Therefore, charity is recommended to be given at a place of pilgrimage and at lunar or solar eclipses, or at the end of the month, or to a qualified Brahmana or Vaishnava devotee, or in temples. Such charity should be given without any consideration of return. Charity to the poor is sometimes given out of compassion. But if a poor man is not worth giving charity to, there is no spiritual advancement. In other words, indiscriminate charity is not recommended in the Vedic literature. Srila Prabhupada ki. The world we live in has become very, very selfish world. Most people are just looking out for what they can get for themselves. Once there was a group of workers and they were looking from the window, and the boss was driving into work with a brand new BMW. So they were all looking at his brand new BMW. And then he came out of the car and he walked into the office. And as he walked into the office, they all came around him. And he said, "Do you like my new car?" They said, "Yes." Wonderful. He said, "Next year, if you work harder, if you work longer, if you work with even more effort, then next year I'll have an even better car." And then they realize, oh my God, who are we making money for here? You know, everyone's just in it for themselves. So the world we live in is very, very selfish. But a selfish life, a self-centered life, doesn't make for an exciting life. It doesn't make for a happy life. And definitely it doesn't make for a spiritual life. You want to know the formula for a boring life? A life that begins and ends with I, me, and mine. A life that begins and ends with I, me, and mine is going to end up a very, very boring life. There was one famous English Indian writer. He said, I slept. I went to sleep and I dreamt that life is joy. I woke up in the morning and realized life is service. But then I began serving and I realized service is joy. When you serve, when you give, when you offer what you have to others, when you are in a spirit of being very charitable and very generous and kind, then know for sure that life becomes very, very beautiful. In the Islamic tradition, there's a very, very beautiful saying. A prayer will take you halfway to God. Fasting will take you to the door of God. But charity will inspire God to open the door from the inside and let you in. That's very beautiful. Because for some people, their spiritual life is prayer, and prayer is wonderful. But when we add to prayer fasting, which means activity, dedication, vows of dedication to God, then it becomes even deeper. But when you add to your internal spirituality, the activities of spirituality, and to that you add charity or helping others on their path, giving to others and being compassionate, then that moves the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a different way. There's another beautiful verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Tapyante lokatapena sadhavo prayasojana paramaradhanam tadhi purushasya khilat manaha. In this verse it said that there are people in the world who are suffering. And when someone voluntarily takes on some suffering in order to help relieve other people of their suffering, Param Aradhanam, there is no higher way of worshipping the Supreme Person than this. Compassion, kindness, generosity, and charity pleases the Supreme Personality, Divinity like nothing else. And therefore charity is so important. Our own founder, Srila Prabhupada, once he was in Mayapur in India, and as he was looking out of his window, he saw some children. And the children, what they were doing is they were going to the heap of used plates that had been eaten from and been discarded. And these kids were there and they were trying to find some scraps of food because they were hungry. And when Srila Prabhupada saw that, he said, nobody should go hungry within a 10-mile radius of our temple. And like this, Srila Prabhupada began the Food for Life program, whereby we try to give food. We were coming from the train station today, and Prabhu was saying the devotees, even from here, they go, I think, once a week to distribute food. So this is spirituality, to be concerned about other people. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, when it talks about charity, it says that you have 4 things at your disposal that you can offer to others, that you can utilize in charity. Etavad janma safalyam dehinam iha dehishu praner arther diya vacha shreya acharanam sada. Janma safalyam, phala means a fruit. Safalya means when something bears fruit. And janma safalya means to make your whole life, your birth in this world, fruitful. So according to this verse in the Bhagavatam, the way in which you make your life fruitful, you make your life worth living, is that you have 4 things. Prana, which means your life energy. Artha, which means your money. Dhiya, which means your intelligence and abilities. And Vacha, which means your words. When you utilize these 4 things to help others, to serve others, to make other people's lives more beautiful, then it becomes the perfection of your own life. The first thing is we all have prana, we all have some energy, we all have some ability to act in this world, we all have some time. So we should use our time, our energy to see how we can serve God and how we can serve others in connection to God. This is very, very beautiful. You can take up some service here at the temple. You can take up some service to do some project in the world. In other words, you can practically use whatever energy you have. You can wash the pots, you can build. I saw today from the room, someone was building a wall in the backyard. So this is praner, you're using your energy to serve others. Then it said, artha, we all have money. Money is a very interesting thing. Money always must be used for others. Otherwise, that money will cause you a lot of anxiety and problem in your life. If you think about it, actually, money causes you anxiety when you're trying to get it. Money causes you anxiety when you have it. And money definitely causes you anxiety when you lose it. It's very interesting that in all stages of gathering artha or wealth in this world, there's always a certain amount of anxiety which accompanies wealth. Wealth also has the potential to destroy people's character. When money comes into the equation, anyone can do anything. I don't know if you've heard of Atlantic City, But Atlantic City is a city in America. It's like a small version of Las Vegas. It's like a gambling city. And once there was an article that the whole town is so absorbed in gambling and making money that even the nurses in the hospital were making a gambling match. And what they were gambling on in the ICU was who was going to die first. And the gambling wager became so lucrative and intense that one of them ended up pulling the plug on someone's life support machine to win the gambling match. What people will do for money. And therefore money is very, very intoxicating. Money can destroy people's character. Money can also destroy anything in the world. Money destroys the health industry. Money destroys the educational, academic institution. Money can even destroy religions, because it said money can often be the root of all evil. So with whatever money we have, we should utilize that money for also helping others, to also be kind and generous. And then that money doesn't become a source of anxiety or degradation, but rather it becomes a source of satisfaction and upliftment of character. Diya means one's intelligence and abilities. When we're all born in this world, we're born with 4 things which are fixed according to our karma. One of them is janma, the people that we're surrounded by. This is all determined by karma. Aishwarya means the amount of wealth that you have. To some extent, this is fixed by karma. Shri means beauty. However much beauty you have, mirror, mirror, on the wall, you can try to change it, but ultimately it is what it is, fixed by karma. And the 4th thing that's to some extent fixed by karma is shruta. And shruta means your intelligence and your abilities. So each one of us have been given intelligence and expertise and ability in a specific thing. And we should also use those abilities to teach others. If you have some talent, if you have some knowledge, if you have some intelligence, you should always use that to help other people to also become intelligent, talented, and able. It's said that if you have a certain ability, but you don't use it in service of others, then what happens? You end up competing with others. And you know what happens when you become competitive towards others? One of 2 things happens. If you turn out above them, then you become proud. And when you're in a competitive spirit, if you end up below someone, you become depressed. So when we become competitive and comparative towards others, then you can know there's only going to be 2 effects. Either I'm going to become proud, or I'm going to become disappointed. Therefore, it's said that whenever we have something, instead of trying to compete and compare with others, we should use that to help others. And when we use it to help others, we stop ourselves from being in a competitive spirit with them. Therefore, even Srila Prabhupada had one disciple, her name was Yamuna Devi, and she was a wonderful cook. And Srila Prabhupada told her, you have to teach others how to cook. You should teach others, because if you don't, you'll become envious, or you'll become proud, or you'll be in a competitive spirit. So diya, we should always use our intelligence to also serve. And then it said vacha, words. This should also be used to help others. Sometimes people accuse us. They say, why don't you guys do something practical for the world? You just sit around singing. You sit around talking a lot of philosophy. You guys just seem to be singing and talking most of your life. Why don't you go out there and do something practical for the world? But what they don't understand is this vacha, these words, these sound vibrations coming out of the mouth, the sound vibrations of mantra or the sound vibrations of shastra, which means scripture. These are transcendental sound vibrations. And these sound vibrations deliver something which can actually release people from their suffering. This is not a normal sound vibration. Once I was on a Harinam in the UK, and someone came up to me and he said, I love you guys. You guys are always singing, you're always dancing, you're always happy. But I've only got one question. Don't you guys have any new songs? I said, well, it's not exactly a song, you know. This is a mantra. And this sound vibration has the power to free the mind just by hearing this. So when we sing, this is actually creating a very, very powerful atmosphere which can awaken people to a higher state of consciousness. Use your words to serve others by chanting, but also use your words to serve others by delivering to them the ancient teachings of philosophy. Because Einstein said, you can't solve the problems of the world with the same type of thinking that created them in the first place. People need a new paradigm. People need a new way of thinking. People need a new approach to life which can help them to solve the problems individually, collectively. And the solutions to the world's problems come from the scripture. And that's why we're always talking. That's why we're always discussing. That's why we spend so much time using our words to bring this philosophy into the world, because this is the philosophy that can create a revolution of consciousness. And so each of us can speak. But oftentimes people are speaking useless things. Socrates says, a wise man speaks because he has something to say. A fool speaks because he has to say something. So most people don't have anything valuable to say. But they have to put some information out there. They have to say something. But Socrates says, a wise person speaks because they have something of value to bring into the world that will change people's lives. And therefore Srila Prabhupada, his life, morning to evening, was utilizing his speech in serving others and being charitable. So be charitable, number one, with your prana, your energy. Your artha, which means your money. Yeah, you said that a little reluctantly. Don't worry, we won't ask for anything today. Dhiya, serve with your intelligence and abilities. And vacha, serve the world with your words, by putting words out there that will actually help people to solve their problems. This is real charity. And in this verse, Krishna is saying that when you do these things, you do it in the right way, to the right person, at the right time, and you genuinely try to help people in a spirit of compassion, then this is the highest type of charity. Some people have good intentions to try to help the world, but actually what they're doing is complicating people in their problems even more. When we try to render charity, but we don't have knowledge, then what happens is our charity can actually cause people more problems. They say the passion to serve others has to be combined with the compass of knowledge. Because when you combine the passion with the compass, then it becomes compassion. Compassion means not just the passion to serve someone, but it also means the compass of knowledge that empowers you to understand how to serve them in such a way that their problems will actually be solved. And then you become a compassionate person. So therefore in this verse, Krishna is saying that oftentimes people render charity, but they don't have the compass of knowledge. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, indiscriminate charity without knowledge can actually entangle people even more. So, our life should be a life of selflessness. When I entered the monastery, one of the monks told me something, and I never forgot it. He said, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to always remember this and keep it with you in your heart. And he said, if you live by this, everything will be okay. And you know what he said to me? Don't try to be happy. And I was like, are you serious? He said, don't try to be happy. Simply try to serve. Don't try to be happy in this life. If you try, you'll end up miserable. Try to serve. Try to give. Try to be kind, magnanimous, generous, and charitable in a spiritual way. Because when you try to serve, then all happiness comes about. Because our most fundamental identity as a spiritual being is that we're meant to serve others. Jivera Svarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti, Beda Beda Prakash. And therefore, Krishna teaches us in the Bhagavad Gita what most people just miss. The formula, the guaranteed formula for a boring life is a life which begins and ends with I, me and mine. Therefore Krishna says, be charitable and do it with knowledge. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so these were some thoughts. And I open it to you. Perhaps you have some questions, or perhaps there's something I said which maybe didn't make complete sense, or perhaps there's something more you would like to know. So I hand it over to you. Does anyone have any question they would like to ask? Yes? Yes.
Thank you, Mark. Just point to understand. He said you said never try to be happy, like this point. But ultimately by serving, we get the happiness. So should we project that happiness, or ultimately we are going to be happy by serving by the spiritual methods. So should we take that happiness and enjoy that happiness, or
no, we want you to be miserable. Why are you laughing? You should be miserable. Anandamoya Bhyasat. The very nature of the soul is to be joyful. The very nature of the soul is to be happy. In the spiritual world, every step is a dance, every word is a song, every day is a festival. It's a happy place. But in the world, when we try to be happy, then what happens is we are inevitably drawn into some degree of selfishness. When your meditation is, I want to be happy, know for sure that that meditation will bring in a certain amount of selfishness. And when selfishness enters our mentality, then to that degree, we miss out on that much happiness. But to the degree that selflessness becomes our basic way of operating in this world, to that extent, happiness comes automatically. And when it comes automatically, we're not trying for it, we accept it. And we use that happiness to bring more happiness to others. And when you use your happiness to bring more happiness to others, you know what happens, right? Your own happiness increases. So this is very, very beautiful. This is real life. But the world we're living in today, the selfishness of this world, people are very, very miserly. Yeah. You know, like, you know how to tell the degradation of the world? The first step in the degradation of the world is that you have to buy food. In society, in real society, you never buy food. Food is available everywhere. And in civilized society, you should be able to go past anyone's home and the door should be open and you should be able to just go in and eat. In fact, in Vedic civilization, it said anyone who's a householder. Anyone a householder here? I can see you're putting your hand up with a little bit of caution here. One time they asked Srila Prabhupada, what is the duty of a householder? And you know what Srila Prabhupada said? Every time you're about to have a meal, before you sit down at the dinner table, you should go to your front door, open the front door, and shout 3 times, is anyone hungry? Is anyone hungry? Is anyone hungry? And if no one comes, then you can sit down. Don't try this at home. Try it. See what happens. So you know how you know a world is degrading? Step number 1, you have to buy food. Do you have to buy food in Cologne? Oh, Cologne is going down. You know the second step in the degradation? You don't just have to buy food. When the world degrades more, you have to buy water. Water? Water's everywhere. Why do you have to buy water? No. Bisleri. Mineral water. Even in my room upstairs, there is some mineral water. Amazing. Do you have to buy mineral water in Cologne? Yes. Going down. But then, do you know how to really understand the world is becoming degraded? You don't just have to buy food. You don't just have to buy water. But then you know what you have to buy? Air. And believe it or not, there are cities in this world where people walk around the city with an oxygen tank on their back and a mask. Because the air pollution is so great that they need a supply of fresh air. Is that happening in Cologne? Not yet.
Not yet.
Keep chanting, make sure it never happens. So all of the necessities of life has become so exploitative now. Everything is so complicated because people are selfish. When people are selfish, then the world degrades in so many ways. And when we become selfish, then our relationships degrade. And therefore, this is the point that we're making. Is that okay? So keep smiling. We like to see your smile. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions or anything you'd like to ask? Yes?
Thank you very much, Maharaj. You are mentioning the formula for boring. to have a feeling of mine, I and mine, me and mine. I see that it's not boring, it's quite exciting for many people, right? Because action starts when you start thinking that it's mine, and then eightfold steps go where you're disappointed and you work out. A lot of endeavor goes, so how can it be boring?
So we see in the world today that I, me and mine, this actually makes people excited because then they have a goal, they have something they're trying to strive for. And therefore, people think if I become selfless, I'll become unambitious. What will I have to endeavor for? Life will become very, very boring. The fact that I have a goal, I have an aspiration, there's something I want to achieve, that brings me great excitement in my life. See, it's not that spiritualists are unambitious. It's not that spiritualists aren't trying to achieve something. It's not that spiritual people don't have something they're striving for and some purpose that they have in life. It's just that what they're trying to do is bigger than their own small world. To have something to strive for in life is essential. The best alarm clock in the world is purpose. Because when you open your eyes in the morning and you have purpose, then you'll jump out of bed. If oversleeping is more exciting than getting up, we need to look at our life. When sleeping is more exciting than being awake, it probably means our life is not exciting enough. And therefore you find that the most highly inspired people in the world, they hardly sleep. They're not even torturing themselves. It's just because they're so energized by life, they're so hungry. When we say I, me and mine is a boring life, it means that those people are trying to strive for things, they're achieving things, they're actually even making a name for themselves in this world, but the net result of it all is they become miserable. Jim Carrey, he was one of the most famous comedians of all time. His whole profession was to make people laugh. And you know what happened to him? He became the most depressed person himself. Isn't it amazing that your whole profession can be to make people happy, while inside you're unhappy than anyone else? You know what he said? I wish that everyone will become as rich, famous, powerful, and influential as me, just so they realize none of it makes you happy. So spiritual people are the most ambitious. Wasn't Srila Prabhupada ambitious? Very ambitious. Once he went to Chicago, and in Chicago they have the O'Hare Airport. So he said one devotee, he called him over, he said, I want you to go to the president and tell him change this airport to Oh Hare Krishna. The devotee was thinking like, wow, Prabhupada's a big vision, you know. One time Srila Prabhupada was driving past Buckingham Palace. This is where the Queen and the King live in England. So one of the devotees said, he was pointing to one of the gods. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, one of the gods, he's become a devotee of Krishna. Like the devotee was really excited by that. He said, Prabhupada, one of the gods of the Queen has become a devotee of Krishna. Prabhupada looked back and said, oh, and what about the Queen? I said, like the Queen? I mean, that's like, I say, where's the Queen should also become? So Prabhupada was ambitious. He was thinking big. Once Srila Prabhupada went to Mayapur. The devotees had all this land. They had no idea what we're going to do with this. So one day they were walking in the land and Prabhupada said, I want you to buy all the land in Mayapur. So they already had this. They were thinking, we don't even know what to do with this. We're going to do with all the land. Prabhupada said, I want you to buy all the land in Mayapur. So they were like, okay. And then Prabhupada walked a little further and then he said, and then I want you to apply to the Indian government for independence. We should create the country of Mayapur. It's like, and then Prabhupada walked a little further. And then he said, and then in our country of Mayapur, we will have our own currency. 1 Chaitanya, 5 Chaitanyas, 10 Chaitanyas. Currency. The devotees are thinking, my God, Srila Prabhupada has such a big vision. So a boring life means a selfish life. A beautiful life means a selfless life. And the devotee is very, very active in the world. They're doing things, they're making a change, they're making a contribution. But they're doing it in a spiritual way. So yes, this is the point. Is that okay?
Thank you so much, Maharaj. The extension is this. How about adventure when we are saying not boring? When we take up to some services, what if one is coming to an age because of his physical limitations? How best can he do the service? How his life can still be adventurous?
Sometimes I think about Srila Prabhupada's life and I think that Krishna engineered it in such a way that nobody can have any more excuses. Because if you say, I can't serve because I'm too old, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada was 70 years old. If you say, I can't serve because I don't have good health, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks on the ship. If you say, I can't serve because I don't have any material facility and security, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada came on the ship with 40 rupees. If you say, I can't serve because I don't have any help, I don't have any assistance, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada came and he was all alone. If you say, I can't serve because the environment is too different, I can't connect, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada came to America in the 1960s, in the middle of the hippie revolution, which couldn't have been more foreign for a Swami from India. It seems to me that Srila Prabhupada's life shows us ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati, that devotional service is uninterrupted in all situations. It doesn't matter what limitations there may be on a physical or a mental level, one can always continue to serve. One can always find something. There was one devotee in Vrindavan, his name was Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. And he used to cook all the offerings for Krishna Balaram. All the offerings, not one, all of them. And his cooking was so amazing, Srila Prabhupada gave a special instruction to him. He said, you just cook for the deities, you don't even have to chant your 16 rounds. That was just for him. Prabhupada said, you just can continue cooking and chant while you're cooking. You're going to go back to Godhead just by your cooking for the deities. But then what happened at one point in his life is he became too sick to cook. But still the seva bhav, the attitude to want to serve was so great. So you know what service he took up? In the Krishna Balaram temple, he took up the service that every day I will give the Charanamrit to the guests. I think like, not such a big service, but it is big. Because in Krishna's eyes, everything's big when it's done with love. And the devotees would recall how when he gave that Charanamrit out to every single guest, he gave it out with such love, such attention, such a sense of service that it touched so many people's hearts. And in this way, the devotee always finds a way to serve. And Krishna becomes pleased by that service. Because bhakti uparitam, Krishna puts bhakti in the beginning. And bhakti can never be interrupted. When you have love in your heart, it must be channeled. And therefore the devotee always finds a way to serve. So there's always a way to serve. We simply have to have the desire. Is that okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes. Yes.
Back to the Queen of England. I remember.
Back to the Queen of England.
I remember a photo, if I get it right, you and the Queen meeting.
Yes, I had the fortune to meet the Queen of England. Actually, the late Queen of England, of course, she passed away. She met devotees many times, actually. She met devotees maybe on multiple occasions. She probably has about 5 copies of the Bhagavad Gita, because every devotee gave her a copy of the Gita. And the Queen actually came to our Krishna Avanti school, and she had darshan of Krishna Balaram, direct, face to face. And yeah, I had the great fortune to meet the Queen of England. She was very nice, she was very respectful, and well, she lived an amazing life in one sense. She never did anything, she was only serving the people, actually, her whole life. So clearly she had some level of exaltedness in her character as well. And I'm sure she is on the journey to Krishna somewhere. Thank you. Okay, anyone have any other questions or? Yes.
As you talked about I and mine is boring, so I had this thinking that it can also extend to my group of people. Could you speak something on how this can also be a selfish act, that you just are concerned about your group of people even in a spiritual circle?
Yeah, so sometimes I, me and mine can become an extended size type of selfishness. My people, my family, my friends, and we simply serve those who are close to us. And Srila Prabhupada actually called this an extended sense of selfishness. There is, you see, love expands more and more and more. First, we just love ourselves. When we become more open-hearted, we love our family. When we become more open-hearted, we have love and sensitivity towards our friends and those who have done something in our life. When we become more sensitive, we love society and we try to do something to help even people we don't know. When we become more open-hearted, we don't just love humans, but we love animals as well. And when we become even more open-hearted, then we don't just love humans, animals, we also love nature and we try to serve nature. And like this, what expands one's locus of love is their connection with divinity. When you have connection with divinity, your locus of love is naturally expanding, because what you begin to see is divinity within everything. You love your family because they are connected, they are divine. But you also then begin to love society because everyone's divine. But then you also love the animals because the animals are also divine, they're also spiritual beings. But then you also love Mother Earth because Mother Earth is the mother and she's a person and she's also divine. And so as our love becomes confined, we can understand it's love based on material identification. And what most people are experiencing in the world is not love. Like one student asked this teacher, what's the difference between loving and liking? And he said, you see that flower? If you like it, then you'll go up to it, you'll smell it, you'll enjoy it, you'll pick it, and then once it's dwindled, you'll throw it away. But if you love that flower, then you'll go up to it, you'll nourish it, you'll protect it, you'll allow it to manifest its fragrance and color, and you'll allow it to bring joy to the world. That's love. So we say we love people, but actually we don't love people. We like people. They say that you should love people and use things. But nowadays we use people and we love things. And even if we're honest, when we come in front of God, do we love God or do we like God? Because when we come in front of God, are we asking? Are we expecting? Are we desiring? Or are we appreciating? Are we giving? Are we thanking and feeling more of a sense of indebtedness? That defines whether we actually love or we like. So love is a very, very deep thing. Nowadays people use the word love very cheaply. Once I did an experiment. I was on book distribution the whole day. So I did an experiment and I asked every single person, how do you define love? And I was shocked. Because at the end of the day, I couldn't find one person who could give me any definition of love. We talk so much about love, but actually love means spiritual love. And without spiritual knowledge, without an understanding of divinity, we can't really love anyone. All we do is we like things and we like people. And when we like people, we selfishly create a group and we give, but we also take. It's transactional. And this won't satisfy the soul. So therefore, yes, real welfare work goes beyond any boundary. Like that. Is that okay? All right. Okay, I don't know how we're doing for time. Do we end here, or if there's more questions, do we take more questions? Okay, does anyone have any more questions? Like to ask anything? Yes.
How do we know what is enough to give? Do we know that we are not pushing us towards the border, or that we are not doing enough?
How do we know how much to give? Because sometimes you feel that when you're giving, then you become like depleted. They did a study of the most compassionate people in the world, and they found one common trait amongst the most compassionate people in the world. And that quality was that they all had boundaries. In other words, they all took some care of themselves. Because when you take care of yourself, then you're able to serve others in a better way. You breathe out, but then you have to breathe in. And then when you breathe out again, then you have to breathe in. If you simply keep breathing out, you ain't going to be living for long. Right? So there's a sense in which we have to take care of ourselves. We have to nourish ourselves. We have to become inspired ourselves. We have to become strong. We can't give other people what we don't have. So therefore, there's always some level of self-care. But the goal is not self-care. The goal is service. And by paying attention to self-care, it should result in more service. But you know what happens is that when one becomes very advanced, then their giving is receiving. When one becomes very, very advanced, they don't give and then retreat to nourish themselves and then come out to give again. When one becomes very advanced, then simply the act of giving is their own receiving. Like say for example, Srila Prabhupada, when he was writing his purports, he said, these purports are my ecstasies. So Prabhupada was doing an amazing service for the world. But he wasn't like, okay, I've done like 8 hours of translation now I need to like just chill out for a while and like read. No. He was translating in the middle of the night when everyone else was sleeping, and it was his ecstasy. In other words, when one becomes very advanced, their giving is receiving. It becomes seamless. This is very exalted. And until we get there, then we need to take some time also to become inspired. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Yeah, thank you. Yes?
I got a question. Thank you very much for the lecture. It's a kind of off topic, but not really. So we're listening to so many lectures, so many inspiring lectures, and sometimes while washing dishes, while doing this and that. And how all of those lectures, or maybe you have like an advice, how to also to put it in a practical way, because this lecture today was like really, really practical, but sometimes I'm only, oh yeah, this is really good, and then I'm going on with my routine lifestyle, and or I'm listening to that many lectures, oh, this is really nice, and this Maharaj said, and then I forget it. And how to find this balance of listening, like real listening, like Shravana, and then also to do it even if it's like a tiny step. So where I have to...
So how do you go from hearing something to really helping it, or that thing then becoming a change to your life? The first thing is mananam. Sanskrit learning goes through 3 stages. Shravanam, which means hearing. Mananam, which means contemplation. Nididhyasanam, which means applying. And Vandanam, which means prayer. Oftentimes all we do is Shravanam, and then we miss out the others. Sometimes we do Shravanam, Katanam, Pastanam. We hear something, we learn it like a parrot, and then we tell many other people, cut and paste. So it shouldn't be Shravanam, it should be Shravanam and then Mananam. We have to think. Like sometimes people come into a lecture and they write so many notes. Some people don't write any notes. Some people make mental notes, hopefully. But many people write notes, which is good, but then they never look at their notes again. Like we just have books and books of notes. Oh, this is amazing, but we don't look at it again. So we have to really become thoughtful. When we hear something, we have to think, what does this mean for my life? Oftentimes we just hear and we think, great lecture, and then business as usual. We have to really go away and think, what does this mean for my life tomorrow when I wake up on Monday morning? Krishna is telling us here, be charitable. We have to really think, what can I do? What small thing can I do to be more charitable? Imagine tomorrow you would just make a vow that on Sunday night, I'm just going to spend 30 minutes making 50 cookies. And then what I'm going to do is, as I go through my day, every single day, I'm just going to carry some cookies with me, and whoever I meet on the way, I'm just going to give it to them. Simple. But then what happens is you become being more generous. We become being more sensitive to others. We break out of this small selfish world that we're living in. But if we just hear it and then go away and then just carry on with our normal life, then what we realize is we never changed. And scripture says this: Bahu janma kore jadi shravana kirtan tabutana paye Krishna pade prema dhan. Bahu janma, for many lifetimes. Shravana kirtan, you can hear so many amazing things, but it may not result in any love awakening in your heart if we're not attentive to applying that message. And so I think the first thing is we always have to try to make many small practical changes to our lives. So then mananam, nididhyasanam, and we pray to Krishna. Why can't we pray to Krishna after hearing Krishna say, be charitable? We pray in front of Krishna and we say, Krishna, help me to have this softness of heart. Help me by showing me ways in which I can be more charitable. Help me by sending people who will help me to be in a more charitable spirit. If you feel like I'm not a charitable person, I'm not a generous person, then just go in front of Krishna and say, Krishna, I don't think I'm ever going to be generous. But maybe what you can do is send people to me who really need help, so I start becoming more generous. One Christian monk, he said, God, I prayed to you for strength, and then you just kept sending me obstacles. God, I prayed to you for love, and then you just kept sending me people who needed help. God, I prayed to you for wisdom, and then you just sent me more problems in my life. Then he says, God, now I realized you gave me everything that I needed, but nothing that I wanted. Because when you overcome obstacles, you become strong. When you solve your problems, you become wise. When you help other people, you develop some love in your heart. You can't be spiritual and be blind to other people's suffering. It's just not possible. You just can't do it. A Vaishnav is known as Para Dukha Dukhi, which means they experience someone else's pain as though it's their own. So in English we have 3 words: apathy, sympathy, and empathy. Most people are just apathetic. They see all this suffering around them and they just learn to just blank it out. Some people, when they advance more, they're sympathetic. They see people suffering, but they see it from a distance. Oh, that's very bad. Thank God it's not me. But a Vaishnav can't be apathetic, is not even sympathetic. A Vaishnav is empathetic. They feel it, and therefore they have to do something. Tomorrow, if you get a cut on your hand, you're not going to ignore it. You're not going to be apathetic, I guarantee you. And you know what? You're not even going to be sympathetic. Like, oh, there's a cut there. Yeah, that's terrible. Anyway, nothing to do with me. No, that's your own pain. Definitely you're going to do something. But when we don't have sensitivity, so Srila Prabhupada cried when he saw people suffer in the world. But somehow or other we just become desensitized. So we have to, it's hard, but we have to have a more open heart. Then spirituality will blossom. Anyway, I kind of went off the point, but I think you got my point. You have to Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, Vandanam. When you do all of these steps, then it's like you digest the knowledge. Otherwise, if you only do Shravanam, it's like imagine you open your mouth and you just keep putting food in it. Yeah, but then at one point you have to close your mouth, you have to chew, you have to digest it, and then you feel the energy. But if we only hearing, but we're not thinking, what does this mean for my life? Then it's just like putting food but not chewing it and digesting it. Some thoughts. Okay. Yes.
Gita 3 from Maharaj, this book.
I have it.
This will definitely help.
Yes, this is what I'm doing actually, endless lectures. They're so great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, now I've talked about eating and chewing, and so I can understand some images are coming in your mind of the next part of the program. So I think we can end here. Is it? We can end here or carry on or kirtan, or how does it work? Gora Arti? Okay. So shall we sing then? Yeah? Alright, good. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Gauradesh Keshav Maharaj ki jai.